What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Filthy 5150 RC channel. We're going to get into the Nero. I've bashed it. I've gone through about 6 packs or so. We're going to look at the damage, and to be honest with you, I'm kind of shocked of what has happened and kind of baffled at another thing that's happened. But I'll show you guys everything that I've done so far. We're going to go over it. I haven't cleaned it because I want you guys to know this is the truck that I run. This is the truck that I bash. This is the truck that you see in the videos that I'm shooting. For its first bash, to its second, to its third. This is the same exact truck that is in those videos. So we're going to look into it right now. Hang on real quick. I'll be right back. We'll get a little bit closer, as if this wasn't close enough. But I want you guys to be able to see everything that's going on. Alright guys, sorry if you can hear my fan. It's blazing hot in my house right now, and garage is not done yet. Hopefully it'll be done soon, so hopefully we'll be out there hanging out, shooting video, talking RC. Anyways, let's get into it. Okay, so the first bash that I had, my ESC came unmounted, and this is not a light ESC, trust me. I've already taken it off. Obviously I tried zip tying it on. That obviously didn't work. I don't know if these are the greatest zip ties. This is something that we found in one of the boxes while we were out. But I did put my own servo tape on here and it still didn't hold. So I have to figure out another way to possibly get this to stay down here, because with this coming loose, it's pulling at the plug wires here, so I'm losing power because it'll actually pull those wires clean out. Not a big problem, but an annoying problem. You know, you take a jump and then all of a sudden your car doesn't work. You figure it out, you plug it back together, you do it again, and it comes out. It's annoying. Easy fix, I think, is I'm just going to get a heavy duty zip tie it to the actual ESC plate, because this truck actually has its separate ESC plate that comes right out with 2 screws, which is really nice, but it doesn't seem to stay on that ESC plate very well. So I think with one big zip tie, that'll solve my problem right there. Number 2 problem is, as you guys can see, I zip tied the hell out of those connectors, the XT90 connectors. Some people really like these connectors. I cannot see why. As you can see, I really zip tied those together to stay together, and they were still trying to come apart. Actually, this one actually stretched the zip tie enough to slide out. I actually just pushed it back together. I should have just left it apart. But anyways, I'm probably going to change these out to something locking. Maybe something along the lines of the high voltage Castle bullet connectors. I really like those. They snap in when you put them together, which is another nice feature. Other than that, I'm running it with Dean's connectors on the ends of those. Basically just made an adapter with what they gave you in the pack. I've seen some people have issues with their doors with this button not coming back out and just staying in there like that. So thus the door isn't closing all the way, or latching, excuse me. Now, I had that happen to me out while I was running. So what I did actually was I literally pushed as hard as I could on here, and I literally pried that door open with my finger, and I just kept pushing the button, and more and more and more crap just kept falling out of the locking mechanism in there. Let me see if I can get in a little closer so you guys can see that locking mechanism. Let's see here. See the locking mechanism right there? Let me try and block that light. Sorry, it's kind of bright where I am. See how it slides down? As you push down, it releases the armatures that are on the door itself. And if this is stopped from sliding all the way back up, meaning that there's crap up here on above it, actually it would be behind it, it's not going to work. I literally had sat there for like 10 minutes and I just kept pushing this button over and 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 over again, and then finally the rest of it fell out. Now there is a little bit of a solution if you can get your hands on them. You can find them everywhere, but if you have dental tools, they will fit in there nicely, like a dental hook or a pick as they call it. You could pick out all the sand and dirt and muck that gets in there, and that'll fix that problem. It's not a big issue, it's not a warranting issue. You just have to really take your time, look at it, and make sure you get all the dirt out of it. Enough about the door. The number 2 issue that I had, as you guys can hear, is the shocks have sucked up so much dust inside of them that it's dried out the shafts, and the shafts are basically bone dry, rubbing against the O-rings that are inside the shock. So I got to rebuild the shock, but that's not the worst part. Just like on some of the other videos that I saw, as you can see right there, there's me eyelet. It's broken. I was expecting it. I almost anticipated it breaking. You guys seen the videos. I was bashing this thing hard, trying to pull doubles. I mean, I was putting it, what, 10, 15 feet up in the air, trying to go for distance jumps. And with the stock shock oil, it just is not having it. It's not doing good enough job with the stock shock oil to be able to absorb those impacts from that high. So, thus, you break the weakest part. Not a big deal. We're going to be changing one of those out today too. If you guys have broken these and you don't know what the part number is or need the part number, I have one right here. Make sure we get a focus on there. AR330338. This is a shock rod end set, 1 pair. So 1 package is 1 pair. These, I believe this package is only like $5.99 from Tower Hobbies. $5.99, people. That's cheap. It's dirt, and it comes with the spring retainers or captures, whatever you want to call them, on the bottom of the shock. You get 2 brand new ones. It's almost as if they're anticipating those to break, but I haven't had an issue with those whatsoever. Anyways, moving on. Shock issues. I've had battery door issues. What else did we go over? We had ESC issues. Oh, okay. Now we're going to go on to the big one. This was really a shocker. I mean, really a shocker. I wasn't expecting it whatsoever. Now, you probably heard my drivetrain sound like it's not meshing well. Well, that's because it's not. It's really bound right as you turn it, because this is what happens when that shock doesn't work very well. This is your front plate for your steering, and it also aligns your front bulkhead to your center diff. My problem is it's broken. Let me see if I can get in there. Right there. That's where it's broken. This one is broken, and this screw right here actually backed out, which on both sides, this screw backed out. Now, I haven't had a chance to look at this screw because I wanted to do it while I was shooting so you guys can see what happened. But basically, this whole plate, the skid, is destroyed. You can't use it at that point. Basically the parts that get screwed into from behind this part of the battery tray are broke off. The I guess it would be like a hoop that you screw into are broke, and honestly it's not that big of a deal. It's a super quick fix. Some people are like, oh my god, this part should not break and yada yada yada. Well, you know what, neither should a Traxxas LCG chassis. But those snap and those break, or the Summit chassis or the EREVO chassis. You snap off a front end or you snap off a back end. Hey, these things happen. We're bashing them. This is what they're made for, to bash. But you know what? I would rather break this plate all day long than break that diff gear in the center or the front or the rear. I mean, it's just that simple. What's easier to get to, this plate or a diff? This plate. So today what we're going to do is we're actually going to change this plate out. I already got a new one, and we're going to start putting on some of that T-bone racing stuff. Alright guys, so you probably noticed by now that I've taken all the screws out. So you got these two here. This is going to be your center screw. This is a really long screw. That's simply for the fact that goes through your steering rack and your bell. So make sure that you put that back into the center. The number one to note, you have to take these two out, plus you have to remove your bumper, which will remove this whole front skid portion. Now, when you go to order your replacement pieces, this is actually a two-piece set. Okay, you're gonna get both pieces when you order them. The part number is AR30283, steering skid plate set. As you can see, there's one piece and the other piece is behind it. That is the front piece right there, and that is this larger piece. So we're going to take everything apart so you can see how it goes. Now the bumper is actually two longer screws and then held in by two fingers. So the bumper's got the two long screws that go there, and then two little finger pieces or tabs that go right in there that hold it in place. Now, this particular one, do not pull towards you. Don't pull it, don't try and peel it off this way. Watch, one finger, and it's off. The reason being is because it actually receives the two arm pins right there. So if you just push it forward a little bit, this will pop out and then you could slide it right off. No big deal whatsoever. To remove this plate, you must remove those two pins. So to remove the two pins, get your needle nose or your angles or your pliers, what have you, and you want to just pull them out. I grabbed the wrong needle nose. I'll be right back. I typically will use something with a square head to grab that. And it slides right out. Now you want to double check these. You've already ran them. Easy way to double check, you see right there, roll them on the table. This one is still straight. It's got no bends in it. It's not wobbly. It's nice and flat. It's a good sign. This one came out a lot easier. Nice and flat. Now this plate should just come right off. Now see, mine wasn't as destroyed. See, when we went out the last time, there was two of us that broke this plate. And I'm really looking at this, and only this one tore on the inside, and this one half tore on the outside. But if you look, I don't know if that's going to show up in the camera. Oh, there it is. It ovaled. So it basically stripped it out, and then this one completely ripped. So I'm thinking that's going to be a weak point. Here's the screws here. Here's one. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit here. There you go. Here's one, and then there's one just at the top of the shot right there. Let's see, move it up a little bit. There we go. So now I got to get to those two screws to back them out in order to put the new plate in. So you back these two out, you get your new plate, you set it in. Now you got to make sure there's a hex in the middle of this plate. Let's see if I can get it to, there you go. Now that hex has to line up with the hex on the top of your bell. Make sure you get this in here properly. Don't force it, don't squeeze it down with the screw, don't pinch it down, because that's what helps the servo saver work. If you pinch it down into the plastic and it's not seated properly, it's probably gonna blow out your servo, because the servo saver is not going to be able to work properly. Okay, hang on for a minute, let me get those two screws out and then we'll start installing the other piece. So I wanted to get this little tidbit on camera just simply for the fact that ARRMA really has thought of a lot about working on this truck. A lot of trucks, you have to tear down the battery tray, you have to take off this TVP, you got to take off all the wheels, blah 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 blah. Well, you remember that screw that I was showing you down over here? I thought I was going to have to take out the battery tray, and that's why I said I'll be right back. See that hole right there? See where it went? Right into where that screw is. All you had to do was open up the battery door. Obviously I don't have to unscrew it because it's already out, basically. I just have to put some tension on it. But I wanted you guys to see that, and wanted you guys to understand that this is a truck that you can work on. This is a truck that if you break down out there at the track or at your bash spot, wherever you are, guess what? You can work on it. Everything's easy to get to. So I'm going to get that other screw out, and then we're going to continue on installing the new plate, the front bumper from T-Bone Racing, and then we're going to move to the back side, the skid in the back, the center skid in the back side, so we can get that rod end replaced on the shock. Alright? Alright guys, we got that screw out. Now we're going to continue on with the replacement of that bottom skid. If you don't want everything falling out, one thing that I've learned through having monster truck after monster truck after monster truck is if you're working with the bulkhead in the front or the rear, either or, when you take those pins out, the arms are going to go flopping all over the place. If you just stick the pins in by hand, you don't even have to put them in all the way. As you can see here, I didn't put them in all the way. Just put them in to where they'll hold the arms in place, and then you can just easily pull them back out when you're ready to replace that section. Do that, it will save you a ton of time, a headache of everything falling out, because with this particular truck, and it does the same thing with my Savage, or you know, my buddy has an MGT, it does the same thing. You pull those pins out, the arms go flopping everywhere, your steering rack goes flopping everywhere, and when you go to try to put those plates back on or whatever you're replacing, it's kind of hard to you're trying to keep everything together, and then you got a screwdriver in your mouth trying to do something, and it just saves you a lot of time. So put those pins back in where they were, and then you can continue on doing what you're doing, just like we are going to right now. Now, I'm not going to replace that front skid just yet. I would rather break the one that's there because it's not broken. It's still in good running order. And I don't think I should replace it just because I have a new one. I'm not that kind of person. I will run it until it is no longer usable or riggable, I should say, to the truck. Excuse me. I said in the beginning that they came with both front plates. It is one front and one rear. I'm looking at it now because that is that plate right there. So I'm not sure what the other part number for this guy is, but if you go to Tower Hobbies and just type in ARRMA Nero, all the parts will pop up. But the part number for that I already gave you guys. So we're going to get into putting this plate back on. Now remember, you want to line that hex back up, and if you really pay attention to what you're doing here, the actual bulkhead, the front part, is actually notched out right here, so it should line you up pretty well, and then the bell crank should receive you with these two armatures right here. And you will know because you can actually grab the bell crank and pull it forward. If you're not lined up in the hole, you are not lined up here either. So let me get this lined up and we'll be right back. Okay, there we go. So I got the 3 screws in. I didn't tighten them down all the way simply for the fact that we're going to put in that front bumper, and there's a chance that I might have to take either these two out or these two. Now I haven't placed them all in just yet because I wanted you guys to know how I lined it up. Okay, so I haven't cinched down the center long bolt for the steering rack yet. I did do these 2 bolts for the reason of, let me see if I can get in there with a good close shot. You can see it right here. So the lower half of that cut right there above my nail is actually the skid plate. The upper half is actually the bell crank. So what I did was I found the hole for the top of the bell crank, and I went in a couple of turns, just enough to hold the bell crank to the actual plate. And then I lined these up by using the holes and slid them into place, locked it in with the screw, and then I did both of them. Now, on this particular truck, one thing that I've noticed is the plastics are a lot softer. So with softer plastic, you have to be careful on stripping stuff out. So when I tightened it down, only when the 2 halves met, that's where I stopped. I didn't try making it any tighter. I didn't even go a quarter turn past. I made it to where they just met. Reason being is because they're already met. You don't have to go any further. All you're doing is stripping it out if you're going any further. So take your time, go slow, and when you're tightening down, try to only use 2 fingers and let that wrench just work in your hand. So that way you're not cranking on it and over torquing it and then stripping the plastic out. So I'm going to get the rest of this installed to the point where we are working on the front skid plate from T-Bone Racing.